Welcome. Good evening, everybody. This is the Board of Commissioners, City of Bowling Green, Kentucky, regular meeting, City Hall, June 1st, 2021 at 4:30. Our first item is we will have an invocation, and Mr. Bailey has a guest to introduce.
Yes, I have Father Basilio. He's from St. Joseph. I appreciate you being here, and then he's going to give our invocation tonight.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Well, for me, it's a joy to be here with you. I am a priest at St. Joseph. I've been here for 2 years. I have enjoyed it a lot. But the church has asked me to move to Paducah next week. So I'm happy I got to pray with you this evening. And I really thank you for your leadership and your service to our community. I'm going to read the 2 verses of Genesis with you. This is the chapter 1 of Genesis in the context of the creation. Then God said, let us make human being in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the tame animals, and all the wild animals, all the creatures that crawl on the earth. God created mankind in his image. In the image of God he created them, male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fertile and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and all the living things that crawl on the earth. As human beings, men and women, God has created us in his own image. God has given us a great dignity and great capacity. God has also given us a great responsibility. As Christians, we believe that God created the amazing world. We believe that God designed and created the universe. But it's still more amazing that God created us in his own image, meaning that we have the capacity of self-knowledge. We have the capacity to give ourselves into service of God and the service of others. We can enter into communion with God and with people around us. We have the capacity of great things by acknowledging our potential that God has given us and putting our talents to serve others. It's so amazing that God has created us in his own image, that each one of us has great potentials and great capacity and great dignity. But the way that we bring this to fulfillment is acknowledging that we have this capacity, that we have this dignity, that we have this great value, and putting these capacities, putting these talents into the service of others. Otherwise, they will never come to fulfillment. So, and I think that you as leaders of Bowling Green, you are doing a good job with that, and the city is growing and serving the people well. I really appreciate the service that you do to our community. I don't know all of them, but what has benefited me, what I can see, I really appreciate it. And may God continue blessing you, and may God continue encouraging you to do the good work. And I will close with this prayer. Loving and Almighty God, we acknowledge that you are present among us this evening. Loving God, we also know that you are merciful to us. This evening, Lord, we ask your blessing. Send us your Spirit. We ask that you give us wisdom, peace, courage, and care for one another. Help us always to pursue your justice, and your peace in our community. We pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Father. I would ask everybody just turn to the flag as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. As I lead, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Bailey. Thank you, Father. Just hope everyone had a nice Veterans Day weekend, Memorial Day, sorry. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, we thank those that have laid so costly a sacrifice upon our freedom, and we thank you for their service that have given their lives in honor of our freedom. So we just say that. And Mrs. Jackson, will you please accomplish a roll call?
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Perigin.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Brown.
Here.
Mayor Alcott.
Here. All right, at this time, Mr. Meisel, do you have any recognitions or comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, while we have the opportunity with Meredith with us, I'd like to recognize Meredith Rosansky. She's got the Hometown Hero Award recently with WBKO, and Meredith does a lot for our community. At the chamber, she's got her finger in a lot of pies with ITA, EDA, the chamber, the RDA. What else, Katie? If you need anything you want to know, you call Meredith. I mean, she was key in the COVID era with all the updates that she sent out, that still sending out today to all the local companies and businesses, keeping them abreast of the rules and regulations on employers. And Meredith has always been a great colleague of mine over the years, and I just want to give her recognition for that award because she really deserved it, I thought, and it was well done. So thank you, Meredith.
Congratulations. All right, our first agenda item is the approval of minutes. Do we
So
have-
move.
We have
Second.
moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Bailey. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Next item is municipal order number 2021-76.
Municipal order authorizing continuation of coverage by Sun Life for employee health care specific stop-loss insurance coverage for fiscal year 2022.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Perigin.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that.
News update from
Wrong button.
Dr. Fauci.
I don't know how to get on there. I'm on the agenda.
So meanwhile, back at the ranch, we have a self-funded healthcare fund, as you know, and every year we have to go out for what we call stop-loss coverage. When we hit claims over a certain amount, we have insurance to cover that overage on those claims. And so we've gone out for bid again this year and are choosing to renew with Sun Life. Sun Life basically gave us the same deal as before. We're only what they call lasering two people that are covered under our plan. We're still going to cover them and only going to go up with the rate about like 10%. So we went, Aaron went out for bid, and they got like 9 different quotes from vendors. And Sun Life, when you compared apples to apples, it was the best deal. This insurance is hard to find. You have to go out nationally and look for it. And Aaron worked with Cheryl Morgan, our insurance agent, to do that, our broker, agent of record. And Aaron's here if you have any questions on this item.
I have one question. Aaron, please. First, I'd like to thank you, Jeff, for that explanation on exactly what this is. Were any local companies, did they make a bid for this, or any local companies able to do this?
I honestly don't know. I don't know the location of the companies that put in a bid. Some of the companies, they're some of them are well-known financial institutions, some of them are not. I'm looking at my report on here to see if I can see the name of the company that bid. Companion Life, North River Insurance, American National, American Fidelity, Great Midwest. Those are the types of large insurance financial institutions that have this kind of very high dollar coverage.
So a local company most likely couldn't do this for us?
If their office was here, they certainly could. Yes, I'm not aware of any that are in Bowling Green that offer this kind of coverage, or even Kentucky.
Great. And when will this go up for bid again?
Our consultant shops this annually.
Annually?
Definitely,
Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Here, and I apologize, I want to ask a question.
Sure.
I kind of piggybacking off Commissioner Hills, was there any regional, maybe not necessarily local from Bowling Green, but from this area that I got submitted a bid?
I honestly don't know where their national headquarters are for these companies.
Okay.
So, like I said, this is specialized insurance coverage, and I don't know where they're located throughout the country.
Thank you.
So that's with this costing almost $1 million. This is really about money.
I got
Who
you.
can give us the best coverage for the lowest premiums?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's basically a safety net for our own insurance plan. It's insurance for insurance, I guess you would want to call it that.
Right.
So we started out many years ago, back when healthcare was affordable, and $35,000 was kind of our limit. If we had a claimant that reached over $35,000, this insurance would kick in and pay everything above $35,000. Well, over the years, we had to raise that. We're now at $250,000 per claimant. So if a claimant has some big claims during a year and they go over $250,000, this insurance kicks in and helps us out, so we don't have to keep paying and paying. So this is kind of our safety net for any and all employees that hit over $250,000. And we may have existing people we're not going to kick them off the plan. This is accommodating those people that already have existing illnesses and have some high claims. We're going to continue to cover them with this insurance
Thank you, Jeff.
at a 10% increase, and it's only $40-some thousand increase, I think, maybe less. Maybe got the right number wrong. How much, Aaron? 28. Thank you.
Further comments from the commission? All right, no further comments. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Before we begin, there is a room for public comments at the end. If there's anyone here that'd like to make public comments, we have a sign up in the back. We ask that you put your name, your address on that, and then we'll have that public comments at the end. All right? All right, thank you. Next item, municipal order number 2021-77.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting the purchase of in-car cameras for the police department from Safe Fleet Law Enforcement, a parent company of Coban Technologies Incorporated of Houston, Texas, and the purchase of related equipment in the amount of $74,770.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown.
Police department is in need of some more in-car cameras. We have some that are aging out and are getting older. Plus, we have some new cruisers coming in. This company that we're proposing to go with is kind of a sole source. That's what our existing technology handles, and it blends in with our video management system. So we are recommending to go with Coban for these systems. I think we're going to get 12 of those at a cost of $74,770. This is split between two funds, Equipment Replacement and Police Improvement Fund, and I think there may have been a JAG grant that we're going to cover the rest of it with. So Chief Delaney's here with us tonight if y'all have any questions on this item.
Any comments at this time? Questions?
Chief Delaney, with the new, I guess, camera system, is it easy to turn it off and on, or is it something that will be continuous?
It's the current system that we already have, but technology changes. 30 seconds. Sorry, I got a big mouth. I figured everybody could hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chief.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Chief. No further comments? Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2021-78.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2021-31 for the fixed route and paratransit dispatching and scheduling software from Transloc Incorporated of Durham, North Carolina, in the amount of $160,112.25.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Hill. Mr. Mizel?
So it was determined that it was time to get a new transit route software, and so that's what's before you tonight. This was an evaluated bid. Brent Childers is here and Nick Cook. They served on the evaluation committee along with the RATP Dev, Mr. Gill, along with Community Action, and they got two bids in, two proposals, I guess you would call them. And they evaluated them based on system function and capabilities and also by cost. Your breakdowns are on your memo. But the two bids were from Transloc and CTS Software, and Transloc Inc. was determined to be the best proposal, and the cost is $160,112. We do have existing funds budgeted for this in our transit fund, and Brent is here, Nick is here, Mr. Gill is here to answer any questions you might have on this. But it's got a lot of good capabilities from what I've been told. It's got GIS where you can track where buses are in the system and all kinds of things like that. But I can turn it over to them to answer any questions you might have. But it was time for a change, and this is a good software, it looks like.
Are these the transit? I recognize Mr. Duckworth, but is this the new manager? Wonder if we could meet that person. Was he?
Robert Gill.
I can't recognize.
Come on up, Robert. You want to give them a little bit of rundown about what the system will do?
I'd like to hear a little.
Okay, so, well, hello. The system generally is a software system that allows us to track vehicles internally and externally, so the rider would now be able to see where their bus is instead of all of the influx calls that are coming into the office. And it'll help them out with enhancing the public transit system, which is something that we're goaling for. Within that, it also helps us keep up with our key performance indicators in the areas of on-time performance and seeing where all the issues are, if we have any. And that kind of ties into the rest of the system and all the other dynamics, such as routing, scheduling, all the other development stuff that we're going under right now. So the current system is about 10 years old, I believe, and it's not working as it should. So this one is cheaper, and they're state-of-the-art. So
Cloud-based system.
yes, it is a cloud-based system. We would own all the information, and we can run it from anywhere. So that would be a good tool.
Have you used this system in the past in other?
Personally have, yes, ma'am. So there are two divisions in that system. There would be a fixed route system and a paratransit system merged into one, so that we have a platform for both sides, meaning the paratransit's going from the domicile out to the destination and back. So,
And Mr. Gill, you said that the rider will be able to know where they're at or something. Is it going to be by app, or how will they be able to know that?
So there is a mixture of things that are going into play. The app is something that we're going for, and we're trying to do that on both sides.
Okay.
So the rider on the paratransit system can book their own trip. That's a possibility. And on the other end, the rider can do a test and see, I want to go this time, or I want to get there at this time. And it'll tell them what bus to take or whatnot. So it all intermingles with the Move It and Token Transit fare system that we currently are operating on, as well as Google Transit and all those other platforms to help people out to find the right bus.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All right, no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2021-79.
Municipal order authorizing the continuation of a contract for transit management and operational services with the management services from RATP Dev USA of Fort Worth, Texas, for an annual amount of $221,146.97, and the operational services from Community Action of Southern Kentucky of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $75.71 per revenue hour.
So move.
Second.
By Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
So I think last year around this time, we went out, or determined, awarded bids for the management and the operations side of transit. And we went with RATP Dev for the management side of things, and we went with Community Action for the operations. And so that bid allowed us to do 2 additional renewal years, and we're coming to you today recommending that we renew with both of these entities, RATP Dev for the management side and Community Action for operating the buses. The management side contract would be renewable for a flat amount of $221,146.97, and then the operations side with Community Action is based on per hour, and they have agreed to keep the same rate, $75.71 per revenue hour. And we've got letters in your packets from both these companies, these entities, stating that they're agreeing to this same agreement as we had for another year. And both those parties are here tonight if you have any questions. And Brent and Nick are here for questions as well.
Further questions? Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2021-80.
Municipal order authorizing the submission and acceptance of a grant application with the Federal Transit Administration for federal fiscal year 2021 transportation assistance under the Section 5307, 5339 programs.
Second.
By Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Mizel.
Staying with the transit theme here, we are requesting approval to submit and accept this application for the federal money that we get from FTA to run our transit system. We are set to receive $1,180,000 for operating and capital assistance, and roughly $136,000 on the capital side. We provide a 50% match on the operating side, and then we get a 20% match, or we put a 20% match against the capital, and the state offers some assistance with that. So that's all laid out in your memo. The state's money represents $68,643, and we are asking for your approval to move forward with this. I think this is on the federal's fiscal year, which ends 9/30. So I would like to get this in place and get the money. Brent, did I get that right? And Brent, Nick are here to answer any questions.
All right, any questions at this time or comments? No further comments? Roll call?
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2021-81.
Municipal order authorizing the submission of an application through the Kentucky Fire Commission Training Facility Grant Program in an amount up to $205,600 for the purchase of a live training unit for the fire department.
So moved. Second.
By Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Mizel.
Have another opportunity here for another grant from the Fire Commission. This would be for some training equipment. This is basically two 40-foot structures and two 20-foot structures that are kind of like a burn chamber, and they're insulated. You can have a live fire inside of them and train for that. They have all kinds of configurable deals with them where you can set up different mazes, staircases. You can see even a roof where a doghouse might be on. Is that a real doghouse, Chief? Or and then a platform on the top. But we've got a similar thing now, but it's kind of reaching its useful life, and this would be a good tool to get into our training center if we can. So Chief Morrow's here, can answer more detailed questions than that. I just kind of hit the highlights, but this would be a really great use of money here with this grant if we can get it, to get this training equipment for fire.
Do we know the timeline of when we'll know if we receive this funding?
This time, but I would think it'd be probably this fall. So.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal order number 2021-82.
Municipal order accepting and ratifying actions of city officials and executing an airport coronavirus relief grant program grant agreement among the Bowling Green Warren County Regional Airport Board, the City of Bowling Green, Warren County, and the Federal Aviation Administration.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Bailey. Thank you.
So, right around May 18th at our last meeting, the day of or the day after, we got word from the airport that they had received this $23,000 grant for coronavirus treatment to combat the spread of pathogens at the airport and that sort of thing. And so it's a three-party grant, and they needed the county and the city to sign off on it. So Mayor Alcott was able to go ahead and sign off on this grant so they could receive this money. It was an urgent matter. And you are here tonight ratifying this three-party grant with the airport and the county in that the airport received the $23,000 for the coronavirus assistance. Hillary may have more than that to add, but that's the gist of it.
Comments? Questions? Helping our airport officials, they've been applying for grants as well, so appreciate that. All right, no further comments. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2021-23. This is our first reading and is non-binding.
Ordinance closing a public right-of-way. Ordinance approving the closing of an unimproved right-of-way formerly known as Main Street Road, located between the intersection of Old Barren River Road and Veterans Memorial Lane.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
This was a request to close some right-of-way that we own it's either an old roadbed that we've never used, but anyway, we own it for right-of-way purposes. The owner of this property, how do you pronounce it, Ashley? Mr. Valletta? I practiced it and I forgot how to say it, but anyway, if you go down Veterans and you get to the intersection of Old Barren River Road and Veterans, it's there on the left. You can see it on your map. It's about a third of an acre that we would turn over. We have no use for it. Adjacent property owners are usually split a right-of-way donation, but in this case, there's only one owner of property that this boundary meets up with. So we are recommending that we deed over this right-of-way to Mr. Sanad. Valentinic, I can't say it, sorry. I'm sure he's a nice gentleman. He's got a business there that he's going to expand.
So in effect, this will become his property if this is passed.
Sir.
Any further questions or comments? All right, roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2021-24. This is our first reading and is non-binding.
Ordinance adopting annual city budget. Ordinance adopting the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, by estimating revenues and appropriating funds for the operation of city government.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Hill. Mr. Mizel.
Just a few words. Katie and the budget team and I and department heads and departments worked for many months on this budget. We brought it to you last meeting. We came to $122 million in all funds budget and roughly $75.6 million in the general fund budget. We went about this in the most balanced approach that we could take, giving back to the community, taking care of our employees, meeting our current obligations with debt service, capital improvement projects, paying all the bills. And we brought this to you last meeting and presented it to you. We think it's a pretty good mix of everything. We didn't project any new tax increases or anything like that. No new debt on the general fund side, or really anything. And so we did offer some personnel changes. We went over those as well. But we stand by our recommendation and are willing to hear your all's input on it, and we'll go from there.
All right, it's open for comments.
Or questions. We didn't get any questions really from last meeting.
I'm going to say thank you to my friend and colleague Tommy Loving personally for the work that he does with the Bowling Green Warren County Drug Task Force and keeping our community as safe as can be expected from today's world. And I know it's a dangerous job. He's got a lot of folks working. Chief Delaney works alongside of him, and I know Mitch up at the WKU and the sheriff over here. It's a concerted effort, and it's an honor to serve on your board, but it's even more of an honor to be able to appropriate some funding for you. Thank you all for what you do.
And like I told the mayor earlier,
Got to come up to the podium. We got to hear you on a microphone. This is Tommy Loving.
thank you as a board member and the chief, but like I told the mayor earlier when we were outside, I appreciate all of that, but it's the great detectives that you all, the different law enforcement agencies, assign to us that what I tell people, they just make me look good most of the time, but we have a great group over there, and they're hard workers, and they're the guys that really deserve the credit. But thank you, and I'll pass that on.
I wish you would. I mean, you can tell a community that really looks after these kinds of things, and this is one of them. We only have to travel very short ways to see it differently. So thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loving. I would like to state one of the proposals that we had at the strategic meeting that I shared with the commissioners, that I wanted to work on a coordinated effort by our community to handle, to address panhandling, to address homelessness, to address housing subsidies. And that body has not been able to meet yet. However, I am proposing that I'm going to put together a town hall. And within that town hall, I'm going to invite our community partners that are helping us, our agencies that are out there doing the lion's share's work. I've talked to Mr. Meisel about this proposal. I talked about this proposal to our strategic view that we've been building within our council right now, and that is still working. It's a working process, and we're actually in the process of soliciting citizen input to build that strategic view. But within that, I know there's not a line item within this budget at this moment. But what I'm proposing is that we have the ability to make an amendment to this budget throughout the process, throughout the year, even if this budget is approved. But with that, we need the time to really get to see what that value is and what the community part will be in helping address this as a community issue. But what I am stating is that I'm not putting this aside. I'm putting this as one of my priorities and one of my agenda items. But I'm not at this time ready to put an amendment into that process till we have an opportunity as stakeholders to sit down and get what they need to be able to support our community better. But I am committed as the mayor and as I ran to be the mayor to follow up and to work with those community members and to see what that community part is. So I wanted to state that tonight. still open for comments.
I'm going to make a comment. I appreciate that, Mayor. I think that it's something that we need to hear from the community that is out there working and impacting this issue, to understand what it is that they're doing in order to understand what they might need. So just to, you'd be putting the cart before the horse, and it may not be, it may be the horse can't haul the cart. You don't know what the cart is until we know exactly what we're looking at. And I would welcome hearing from Hotel Inc. and Salvation Army and there's a number of agencies that are out there working very hard and making a difference, and let's hear from them. Let's hear what their challenges are, and so we can then put together something that might serve to help to meet the challenge.
For me, I think that we do have something where we're putting aside money for basically the district, for the entertainment district, which I don't disagree with. But one of the things that at the strategic hearing, I did basically say, maybe we need to hear from people. Maybe we need to hear from the Bowling Green Police Department. Maybe we need to hear from, the area business, the people who live down there. So if we're not going to set aside or kind of set aside for the homeless issue, we need to do that as well. Do I think we need something for downtown? Absolutely. Did I have questions? I did have questions that I submitted well before today. Homeless is serious. This is not a game. This is something that it's not political. It's something that I see every day that it's growing outside. I see it going in the courtrooms. I see evictions that are going up. You guys may not see it, but I do. And I know that it's going to start hitting home a little bit more. So do we need to basically set aside money for the entertainment district? Absolutely, because I do want to grow that. But should we set aside money for homeless issues? Absolutely. We don't need to leave any man or woman behind. That's the thing. If we're going to be here for the city, I'm here for every single person. So that's where I stand at this point.
I want to start my comments just with a big thank you to the whole team. It's a huge budget. And, I take this responsibility very seriously to make sure that we are taking good care of taxpayer dollars. And digging into all of the numbers, I had to recruit my daughter. We had a trip, a 6-hour trip. I was taking her to camp. And I can't thank you all enough for taking this complex budget. You could have kept it in its line item form and super confusing and overwhelming, but you all take the time to take that really complicated budget and make it visual. You put pictures in there, you describe it in regular words, and you are very transparent, and you make something that could be very opaque and hard for the public to understand, and you present it in a way that my daughter, who's 11 years old, read through that budget for me. She explained the whole thing. When I would have a moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to have a follow-up question about that, she would make she wrote little notes for me on which page I needed to come back and ask you all questions or make comments. And so I just want to say thank you. That is not an easy thing, to take a huge budget like that and to make it easily to understand. And so you make our job easy, and so I just want to start with a big thank you. And I'm also just so grateful after this hard year that all of our economies have faced, that we have come out the way we have. And I know that's from a lot of hard work from a lot of people, and you all had a part of that, and Brent, and working alongside of our small businesses to make sure they stayed afloat, the rental assistance and utility assistance, all these things to get through this pandemic together. I'm so grateful that we're in this moment that we can start thinking about getting back to normal and taking care of our citizens in a way that brings about high quality services. Some of the things I'm excited about potentially moving forward on this training center for our public safety that we've been talking about for a while, where they'll get to have that land where they can really set up some really good training facilities for our police department and our fire safety. After all these storms back to back, I'm really grateful that we do commit to investing in our stormwater. We know that the storms are not going to get any lighter, and they're not going to be less frequent. So us thinking, thinking about how we're growing smart and making sure our infrastructure, we're taking care of it in a way that is preparing for the future and for future generations, and that we're leaving them a high quality system. I'm so grateful, especially since one of the storms, we had to not take attendance at the junior high because we had a bus that got stuck because there was a big water issue in the road. So I'm grateful that we're taking care of these things, because there's all kinds of dominoes that we don't even think about when there's storms. I'm excited about our riverfront park and the potential of taking that riverfront that we have and making it accessible to our community and all the exciting things we might be able to do down there. I'm excited that we're going to be able to help our housing department process some of those Section 8 housing vouchers. We know that there's such a great need, so increasing that capacity to make sure that we can efficiently get families that are homeless into housing. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that we're able to raise the full-time wages for any full-time position in the city to at least $15 an hour. That's really exciting, and just so grateful. And I know part of that is, and you all announced this last meeting, I am just blown away that with HR department, Aaron, that you all and Jeff, all of you have talked about the rising healthcare costs that we have had, and that you all really had to think through how do we bring these costs down. And you all tried some new things, and you all were flexible in figuring it out. And the fact that you're seeing some cost savings, I know that a lot of folks aren't seeing that. And so I'm really grateful for those new things that you're implementing that help save us some money. I'm grateful for the new diversity and inclusion training, so building off of the way that we already try to be welcoming and serve all of our community, that we're continuing to invest in that as part of Game Changers and the work that we're doing as a whole community to think through how we do that better. So I'm grateful for your leadership. I'm grateful because, being transparent and being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, I can't think of something more important than that. That's one of the reasons why I ran. And when I think about our job of spending local taxpayer dollars, I'm thinking about, and I'm going through that whole budget in my mind. I'm imagining that single mom with 2 jobs and how she's trying to think about how each dollar is going to make or break her, or the senior on fixed income, rationing every penny. And so this responsibility means a great deal to me. And like I said, I don't take it lightly, because this is our city, this home that we share together. And we know our city better than Washington does or Frankfurt does. We know the trials and successes our citizens face. We know those shining moments that our citizens have, but also, we see the suffering. And we know our strengths and weaknesses. And we know that much better because we all live here together and care deeply about one another. So how we spend our general fund dollars in particular is important to me, because this general fund, it's our pot of money that everyone in our city collectively has earned at their job and shared with us as a city of Bowling Green to make our city better. And therefore, I believe that Bowling Green's values and commitments, it should show up in our general fund budget. The majority of the city commissioners sitting up here ran for office in 2020 with a commitment to address homelessness. This commitment and our successful election to these seats is a reflection of a community-wide commitment and desire to end homelessness in Bowling Green. We have amazing nonprofits and regular citizens, young kids. I had a student who serves on advisory council for me. So I'm teaching him about what does it mean to get public dollars and the responsibility you have to shepherd those and what we can use our funds for. And he said, Miss Dana, do we have to spend all of our money on us? And I said, well, yeah, this money is just for you and your families. And he said, because I see the homeless. And I got a blanket for Christmas, and I think we need to be, I would like to find a way for us to give our blankets to the homeless. And I would like to raise some money for us to give back and to take care of our homeless. And so we have that student who's barely a teenager thinking about this issue. We have that senior at South Warren who has his nonprofit that he goes and feeds the homeless every Saturday. I mean, just countless of folks who are committed to this work. I think really they are showing us that we're really in an important moment and that we need to step up our contribution to this work as well. Homelessness and a lack of affordable housing is a growing problem in our city. In Kentucky and in Warren County in particular, the lack of affordable housing is extreme, and our housing market study confirmed that. Waits for housing can be longer than a year and even up to 5 years. Many face financial hardships to meet their basic needs due to being rent burdened, grandparents raising grandchildren, limited fixed income with high medical costs, and a loss of job by one member or household. In Bowling Green alone, 45% of renters are rent burdened. This means that an estimated 15,800 renters are paying more than 30% of their net income in rental costs, making their household unstable and at risk of homelessness, unable to meet the basic needs such as food, transportation, and medical care. But this issue, we know, is not unique to our city. Many cities, just like ours, have identified the same problem, have made ending homelessness in their city a community-wide goal, and now these cities have functionally ended veterans' homelessness and are on their path to ending homelessness for all their citizens. And we can be on this path if we choose it. We will need to be brave and make some big goals and have a role in this work to make it happen, but I believe our city is ready. And I'm not suggesting that we become a homeless service provider. I don't think that's our role. We have amazing nonprofits that do that. But we do have those community resources, and I think we have the community passion to make great strides towards ending homelessness in Bowling Green if we just have the will to do it. And so with that said, I have 2 decision points that I think can put us on the path to address homelessness that in relation to our budget summary we're going to approve. And first, I would like to make a motion to add address homelessness to our list of strategic goals. I should have pulled up what page that's on. It's on the strategic plan summary, first page in your summary budget. A majority of the Board of Commissioners listed in their budget priorities for that meeting that they wanted us to address homelessness as a budget priority. And so I think it's important that that is listed there on that page, since the consensus was that we needed to address homelessness. And I don't see it showing up on that page. So that would be my first motion, and I would need a second to add address homelessness.
I'll second that. I'll second it.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Bailey to add homelessness to the strategic priorities.
Clarification, is that for top priorities or under your goals?
I think probably the goals goes to 2026. So I think it probably fits better under goals because it's similar to the other things there, like more jobs, more diverse economy, improved traffic flow, thriving downtown, sustainable city government.
We do address under strong neighborhoods, we address neighborhood infrastructure, increasing home ownership, partnering with affordable housing organizations, and strengthening neighborhood associations.
Mm-hmm. Right, but we had all mentioned addressing homelessness. So I'm saying to add that, or top priorities, it doesn't matter, either one.
Mayor,
All right, so
Mayor, I'm looking at a summary of January 29th of your all's planning session, and it lists all of the consensus items. You all would have gotten a copy of this after the January. And what I think you all talked about was you said the last bullet point on here is request for a future work session to provide an update on homelessness with some of the following agencies: Homeless Coalition, Room at the Inn, Hotel Inc., Brass, and Life Skills. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but that's why we didn't really do anything in the budget, because there was no consensus of 3 people giving us direct orders, direct specific instructions on what we were to do, so.
Yeah, and I went back and I made sure I looked at all of our, so we were asked, as city commissioners, the mayor, to provide a list of our top 5 priorities. And that is included in the packet and for the record about what our priorities are. And unfortunately, and this happens sometimes, we run out of time, but I am under the impression, and I feel like in the conversations I've had with staff, that you all assure me that don't worry, even if we don't get to it, this is included as part of the record. We read those budget priorities and we include that. And so I'm just asking for that to be, we never, I think this probably would have been added if we had had a work session. And so it's all good, right? We didn't have it, but I feel like this is the moment then where we can at least add it, even if we weren't able to have a work session, since the 3 of us had said in our budget priorities from that meeting, all 3 of us said addressing homelessness was a priority for us for fiscal year 22.
And respectfully, it was like a top priority of mine that I've mentioned at least 2 separate occasions, back in earlier this year and the mid part of this year. Being new, I thought, okay, well, we're gonna have this work session, and if we have this work session, it's gonna be taken care of before we got to the budget. And then now that we done gotten to the budget, we still haven't had this work session. I think I've mentioned this in passing to a few people. So that's where we're at, because if we would have had like already the work session, I do believe maybe that could have been addressed if it's a goal or a top priority. But for mine, it was a top priority, and it was something that I see that's a necessary concern, and I kind of concur with some of the things that Commissioner Beasley Brown has said. I see it every day. I see like there's a lot of homelessness that's here. And I'll tell you this, Katie, you did a great job on the budget, so I hope you don't take it that I want this added. But to me, I see it's growing, and it's a concern for our city. And if we do nothing about it, in 10 years, it's going to be worse. And it's not people who are basically getting evicted from their homes that basically never face eviction court. The last year, there were new people coming into that court system that have never faced any type of eviction due to COVID-19. I just want to make sure that we have something in place that we're taking care of everybody that it could be facing eviction. Should we take care of everything? I get it, we can't. We can't do that. But should we offer and try? Yes, we should try to give people the opportunity to try to make sure that they can get a foothold to get back to being a productive citizen of Bowling Green, Kentucky.
All right, so we have 2 things on the floor. We have the ordinance, and then we have the amendment. But Commissioner Beasley Brown, do you want to amend that to be in the top priorities for 2021-2022 to add homelessness, addressing homelessness as a priority?
It's whatever the consensus would prefer. I don't mind either way.
So your motion was to put that, and then after it was seconded, I just want to clarify where to put that into there, so.
Yeah, if I may,
sure.
that is not specifically part of the ordinance itself. That's just part of the budget summary, and I can do that without an amendment if I have consensus from the board to add that. But it would be in the budget summary document. And again, that was based on the discussion we had back in January, and there was not, when I asked about goals and changes to top priorities, that was not specifically identified at that point. That's why it's not on this list. But we do have a strategic plan process now currently in place. We will discuss it again coming in July or August. We'll be meeting with you all to discuss the preliminary results of that strategic plan. This is really taking a 2007 strategic plan and just kind of updating it for the 1 year. So we're doing a brand new strategic plan that will be all new and developed, and you'll have that opportunity to really address and add a lot of your top priorities as part of that strategic plan going forward. But in terms of the ordinance itself, that's not an amendment to the ordinance, because what you're approving with the ordinance is simply the bottom line dollar values of our budget. So it's not necessarily amending this document, but if I have consensus, I can update this document.
Yes, because we do use it. I know this is the bottom line, but then when things come back to us, right? They say, "Well, you all approve this in, when we approve the budget, this is part of it," right? So I think it's really important. This is part of our record of being transparent, open with the public. What are our priorities when they open the budget? So I think it's very important that if the majority of commissioners feel like it's a priority to address homelessness in fiscal year 22, then we need to say that for this document, because our strategic planning for the future is going to be for fiscal year 2023 or fiscal year 2024. And so we're talking about for fiscal year 2022.
Okay, so a couple things I'm going to take away from this. One, we are in the process of updating our strategic plan. So that is an agreement that this will be on there. And we can make a pen and ink change to this without any problems whatsoever, correct, Katie?
Yeah,
All right.
consensus.
Yeah, so I'm asking if we can go ahead and update that language for this budget summary, if we have consensus.
You have my agreement.
Okay, great.
You have my agreement as well.
All right.
Okay, to clarify, is it a goal or a top priority?
I'll leave that up to the mayor.
Put in our top priorities.
Okay.
All right.
Then,
Address homelessness?
At this
do you mind if I move on to my second item?
Well, before you do, if we are going to put an amendment item in this with a line item for an amount, I would ask that we have the town hall meeting and then be able to make that amendment so we can actually know exactly, was it some, more or less, of what that amendment would be. So I'll just put that.
Would you mind
as
if I
thought.
make a proposal first?
You may, but I just wanted you to understand that.
And Commissioner, if you don't mind, before you do that, since we just reached a consensus, if you would withdraw your motion to amend
Sure.
before, and then we'll go forward.
So I withdraw my motion. Does he need to withdraw his second, or it ends with me? Okay.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
may proceed.
So in my conversations with our homeless providers, and as a family resource coordinator working with homeless families on a regular basis, we have so many incredible nonprofits, like I said earlier, working every day on the front lines, helping our homeless, to try to get housed. And I am not going to suggest that the city takes over that work. They are doing a great job, and we don't need their work for us. But what they have asked for, and that the city could provide, is that when you're doing that day in and day out service work, right? When you have that folks who are falling off the cliff, and then you have the folks who are, it's their job to go and take care of these people. It's really hard to take care of these people, and you have to stop taking care of them to run up to the top of the cliff and tell everyone, what you're learning and why people are falling off the cliff. So they need some help in this so that they're doing that micro level work of that day-to-day service, and they would appreciate the city to come alongside to talk about this macro level part of being able to say, people are falling off the cliff, why? And what can we do to stop them from falling off a cliff? Because it could be as simple as putting up a railing, right? So that's part of our job as city leaders, is to ask why. Why is there homelessness? Why are people getting into these crises? How can we get out? That is part of what a local government can offer to complement the work of all the nonprofits. And so the way we can do that, right? We've created that housing market study, where we learned about our city, what are some of the causes. We know that we don't have enough affordable housing, either in the rental market or in the home ownership market, and we need to find a way to work alongside of our developers, our home builders, and other nonprofits who are working on this to increase our affordable housing stock. And then also, how do we get folks who are in crisis and are homeless housed and into those houses? So how we can really come along as a city government is if we can provide a staff person to provide support to come together as a community and talk about what is our goals and objectives about addressing homelessness in our city, and then making a strategic plan to start working together after we make those community-wide goals. So after we had that housing market study, we had a town hall with developers and the housing or the home builders, the realtors, with nonprofits. We've had those town halls after that housing market study to talk about, what are some things that we could do. But Brent, and you tell me if I'm not correct, but we just don't have the staff capacity to to staff this or maintain this conversation after investing in that housing market study, having those town halls. We just don't currently have that staff capacity to keep the conversation going so we can make those community-wide goals and start making progress on them. So, Brent, would you mind confirming that for me? Do we currently have the staff capacity to host that conversation and to work towards a strategic plan?
I'll say it like this, and whenever you ask me a question, you're going to get my opinion, so always be prepared for that. I will say it, for hosting conversations, yes. I think we could host a conversation. We've done that in the past on many occasions. We've hosted conversations on homelessness many times. We developed solutions based on that. We hosted the housing market study. We had conversations following that. I think what you're talking about is, do we have the staff capacity to carry out action steps following that? That's different. That we do not have the staff capacity for. If we're talking about conversations, once now that we can start getting back together, we're fine to throw out some food and candy and get everybody together with a punch bowl. So that's not a problem for us, but it's the action steps of the implementation. So what we've done is develop our partnerships and use our funding through our partnering agencies to make those action steps, action investments, because we don't have the staff to make those investments and run the programs that we need to.
Thank you. So we are kind of at this sort of standstill where we're kind of doing what we're doing, and we're seeing, the crisis is getting worse. And the cities that are making really good progress on ending homelessness, like I said, there are some cities who have functionally ended homelessness for veterans, and that is not something to push aside. That's huge. Their cities are a part of that conversation. They, as a city, community-wide goals that are created in a strategic plan with objectives and a plan on how to get there. And like I said, these nonprofits who are doing this work, they are doing it and they are killing it. They're doing their part, but they could really use the city coming alongside to host these conversations, be able to track the progress, being able to pull things together, to do more. As a city, we have access to grants that they, as typical nonprofits, don't. So being able to think about, as a community-wide program, being able to host that conversation, that we have access to more dollars at a federal level as well. So I'm asking my fellow commissioners if we can set aside money from the general fund to create this position, to facilitate with all the stakeholders in our city, so not doing the service work, but creating a staff position to be able to sustain this community-wide strategic plan so that we can end homelessness in our city.
Before I second or don't second, Brent, I actually had a question for you. So the housing study was done, I believe, back in 2019, and it was released back in June of 2019?
That sounds right.
So
2020 is kind of a fog, but
yeah.
that sounds right.
So on page 26, on the housing study, it lists like a bunch of recommendations.
Page 26, I'm with you, go ahead.
It lists a bunch of recommendations from the housing study. How many of those recommendations basically, I know you just basically stated that we don't have an action plan, but has anything been completed from those recommendations that was done back in 2019?
So let me answer that in a different way. It's a study, it's
Right.
not a plan. Okay, so a study is an analytical look at what is the current market conditions. We looked at it from the city and the county. This is required as part of our HUD funding to determine affordability in our geographic area. We wanted to look at it as a true market-based study in the city and the county because we understand housing extends beyond our political boundaries, right? People live in the county and work in the city. People do back and forth, right? So our housing market is universal. So we really looked at it from across the board. We wanted to see how are we doing above income, just as above median income, just as well as we were looking at that. So it really was a housing study. So what we use that as a tool. That's where we've implemented it as a tool to whenever the vouchers came out for HUD for us to say, hey, this is what we need more vouchers in because this is where we're under resourced. We used it as a tool to look at providing priority points in Census Block Group 103, 104 for transitional housing, because we also heard from our homeless providers that we didn't have enough transitional housing units, and we saw that we needed more efforts in that area. So we used it as a tool for implementing programs like that. So it's not about what are the steps or what are the things that we've done from it. It's really about how did we use that as a resource to leverage additional funding, which has now brought us in another 80 vouchers over the last couple of years, 2 transitional units, and another 8 affordable housing units that Live the Dream's putting on for us. And so we're using it as a tool to make those changes. That's where we're using it.
And I got that, but would you agree that basically sometimes a study is also something that's listed as a guide to try to get towards?
Can be. This
Okay.
one is really more of a study, though.
So
There
I
are-
have and I get that, but I have a second one.
Go ahead.
So right now, none of those things that were listed, even as a tool, basically has been implemented other than the Live the Dream, or do we have any transitional units that we can point to say, this was what was recommended back in 2019, and we got this completed?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the 2 has been purchased and is in use by Hotel Inc. The other one has not been purchased by that organization at this time.
My last question would be this: do you believe that having help or position created for homelessness, and I get it, we can't, help out everything that we, fund homelessness, but we could possibly have someone in place that can look at their recommendations that were done, the action plan, and make sure that we're trying to strive to meet some of those goals or the study that we basically were listed back in 2019. Would that help you out if we have someone in a position like that?
So anytime you have a staff person, especially whenever you're in these single staff divisions, which I tend to have a lot of, being in NCS, it's kind of how we're built. What you have to also have is the program to go with it. So you can't just have the body, right? The body in the office and the phone and the desk, that doesn't do anything for you. You have to have the programmatic side. So by doing that, you have to have the commitment of how are you going to develop the programs to make that staff person successful. So I'll use some of our other things. So we've been doing neighborhood work for 25 years, right? But if we didn't have the strolls, which are now BG Gov to Go, if we didn't have the SNAP, which is now Flexible Neighborhoods, if we didn't have the outreach, if we didn't have the BG Can, those are all programs that make that office successful. It's not just about the body. So it's more than just the one-person commitment. You have to understand that there is an additional commitment that comes along the back end of that, which is the programming side of it. Housing, I've been in and around housing now and public housing for about 15 years. It is a big step. Nothing is cheap, right? I've done homeowner rehab projects years ago, and we were doing $40,000 projects, and that wasn't buying anything. That was just rehabbing, and that was 15 years ago, and those were $40,000. So everything in housing is much more expensive because of the cost. So there has to be a programming side. That's what CDBG does for us, right? CDBG gives us that funding source, that money. You all supplement it with the NIP money out of the general fund to give Nick and I the program funding to make those things happen so that we can, give somebody $150,000 to go build or buy a transitional housing unit. You have to have that other programmatic side. So anything over and above what we're currently doing, staff-wise, would also require an additional program investment of some capacity. That would either have to come from the city or some other outside source.
When you agree that we can create a program off of the housing study that was done back in 2019?
If you all got 3 votes together, I'll implement something. I promise you that. I'll make it successful. I'll make it work.
Gotcha.
I'll figure it out. But that's a decision that you all have to make as a body, and then it's our job as staff to implement it.
So can I ask how the new arts and entertainment position came about and the program that you have developed for that? Like, do we have a job description? Do we have the program ready to go?
So that one's a little bit different. Y'all kind of keep lumping it back into arts and entertainment, and I focus it more on downtown development. So those are 2 related but not synonymous, I'll say. So part of that is a portion of the job that I've been tasked with for the last several years. Whenever we started really doing more economic development in the downtown area. And at that time, that task was assigned to me in this position. And it's something that I've been working on for the last several years, working with our outside contractors, with the TIF, with the chamber, and really trying to bring all those things together. So those are things that I've been seeing and going on. It's also, that's a very common job in a lot of cities that have downtown programs. So job description is in draft. It is not finalized. Is there a program? No, there's no program in the budget for that position. There are other things going on that will create that program for what that position will be doing. We already do have some things that are internal staff operations that are right now spread across probably 5 different departments because we don't have a centralized downtown person. We don't have a centralized point of contact for those things. So there are things that legal is doing, there's things that Public Works is doing, there's things that NCS are doing that are all scattered about that will be centralized under that one position. But there are other things at work that are not internal right now, but will hopefully soon be part of the city that will be a big part of what this job is. Arts and Entertainment District is a future project for that position. So that is not established. None of that is ready to go. That would be a future project moving forward.
Yeah, so it's just very similar to that, right? Like we said that we don't have a job description, we don't have a program, part of it is way out. We're just saying for this budget summary, just like for this downtown position, we want to make sure we've set aside some funds in order to make sure that we can make the same progress on homelessness as we are on some of our other goals, such as continuing to invest in downtown. And I really do feel like these go hand in hand together. And I think just looking at the budget, I feel like this would be, I can't think of a more important time to create this position than when we know there's a lot of families who are going to be struggling, and a time where us pulling together as a community and saying we're going to really address this issue. And I think all of us can say that there's a lot of conversations we have in our community with our citizens about this issue, and that they want us to address it. So my proposal is to set aside funds. I would say the same amount of funds that are being set aside for this downtown development position, that I would ask that we would set aside the same amount for a staff position that Brent can put together to be able to pull together all of our housing providers, developers, and other stakeholders to create a strategic plan.
And I'll second it. And one of the reasons why is because for the Arts and Entertainment District, we do have a TIF district. And sometimes that TIF district was set up specifically to handle certain things to handle basically the Arts and Entertainment District. But because of that, this is what we heard, is that there's no program. But we need to have a program and not a body in place, for someone that's dealing with the homeless issue. This is a serious issue. This can affect any one of us. We all deal with medical problems or have a loved one that can deal with medical problems. We always hear that it could be like drugs or it could be like mental health issues, but there's a lot of times where it could also be something that's medical, where someone loses their home because they put a lien on their home. So it's not all the time where it's drugs or it's mental health issues. It's something that we can't leave anyone behind. I take that as something that is a top priority, so I'm going to second it at this time, and we can come back and fill in exactly what this new position is going to entail. But I think that we need it now so we can move forward. So when we no longer hear all of us, we have something where we can say, at least we tried. We tried to provide for every single person that is living in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Everybody may not want that, but at least if we try, we're helping people out.
As a point of clarification, the funding would have to come from fund balance, so we would not be a balanced budget at this point. Are you prepared to absorb that out of fund balance?
You mean what do you mean? There's no contingency? I thought I saw a tab.
There is
called
contingency, but you're talking about $100,000, close to, right? At least $85,000. And so.
And how much is in contingency?
Well, we've got $700,000 in contingency.
So I would like it to come from contingency.
All right.
All right, before we put this to a vote, I also believe in the effort, but I also believe, like Sue says, this is cart before the horse. We need an opportunity to have the conversation. Have we done it? No. Have we had what we put in the plan, the strategic plan? No. However, we have funding coming towards us, in the American Relief Act that we have not allocated, we have not decided, that is allocated at 16.5 million to make a decision on. And I'd ask this body to consider that, but we can put forth now the town hall meeting, the strategic partners that we've asked, that we stated we would have, and get their input. Because right now, the solution is the position. And the position is, that is the plan and that is the effort, but that is not what.
The plan is creating a strategic plan, right? Coming together with all the community partners to create a strategic plan with goals and objectives on how we're going to address homelessness.
But
That's
you're-
what I'm proposing.
But this-
And that our community providers have said they cannot take this on, and that this is a role that the city could take to help us move forward on our community-wide goals towards ending homelessness.
I understand, but I wasn't finished.
Oh, I apologize.
Right now, the strategic plan is still in process. We're still developing that strategic plan. And maybe it's a position, maybe it's 3 positions, maybe it's something else. But right now, to state the strategic plan is the position, I think is premature. I think we need the time to have the town hall, to have the community partners to come to the table as stakeholders and state what they need. Again, I agree with you. They are the ones with the ask, but what is the best solution for that ask? If that ask is in turn a position, then we will take that into consideration as a body. But right now, we haven't had that ask to really understand what we are as a body are able to produce for our city. So again, I think it's premature, and I think we need the time to have that city hall meeting.
I guess I'm just confused about why this downtown development position is not premature. We have not had a town hall about this downtown development person. I haven't heard from the police chief about how this might impact their workload. I haven't heard from downtown residents. I haven't heard from downtown businesses. And so I need, Commissioner Perigin, since you brought this up, why does that not put the cart before the horse, but this issue it is? Because it's the exact same thing, and you're saying one is cart before the horse and the other one isn't.
There is something called a Main Street Planner. That is a very common, it's a certification for these positions, and most cities have them. That it's not a created thing. It's not something that's, randomly created. We came to a consensus at our January retreat that was a priority. We heard from Chief Delaney that he didn't see any issues in speaking with his leadership. We heard from Greg Meredith. We heard from, who else came to talk to us? From Brent. And we talked a lot about the downtown redevelopment and how can we, you're putting 2 things together that I don't see that are the same, but I can answer that question for you. This is not an uncommon position. It's not new and it's not novel to this city.
And I guess, are you saying that having someone who does this for a city is novel and uncommon?
Are you talking about the homeless coordinator?
Yeah.
Well, I would want to hear from our stakeholders, and I'm not against it at all. But I don't want to, so the Main Street, well, you asked me why they were different. The Main Street Planner is a program that is already in a lot of communities.
Yes, and the same thing with this position. Most cities have this position as well.
When you have a profession that has a certification to it, there is a track to run on. There is a way to go about doing that job that has been proven successful. In the homeless situation, in my humble opinion, every community is a little different. We're going to be different than Los Angeles. We're going to be different than Louisville. We're going to be different than Lexington. We're going to be different than Paducah.
Are you saying that our downtown is the same as Los Angeles and Louisville, and so then the Main Street Planner can?
The work of a downtown planner in these communities is very similar across, because think about it, what a certification does. It creates a profession, and it puts parameters around that profession. I'm sure that you work with folks that even have certifications of your own. That doesn't mean that that it's exactly the same. I'm certified for several things, but I want to hear from the community. We have some here today I'd like to hear from. I want to hear from the providers. I want to hear from other cities that you're pointing out, that some names of those I was going to ask you, so that we can do some research on what is successful in other areas, because you don't want to, this is important, you don't want to spin your wheels on it and just, okay, we're going to hire somebody and then just wait for it to happen. Let's see what's out there that other people are doing and take best practices, but listen to our community, because our community is going to be unique.
And respectfully, I was at the strategic hearing, and what I thought is we was gonna have a work session, just like we was gonna have a work session on the homeless issue. We are putting the cart before the horse, and we have a TIF district. To be honest with you, the TIF district was designed by the county and the city basically to handle all the entertainment district. Do I think we need something? Yes. But do we need to hear from the police? We didn't hear from them how it's gonna affect basically, even the fire department. We need to hear from them as well. We need to hear from the business residents. That was one thing that we talked about at the strategic meeting. We need to hear from the residents because people are gonna be coming down there. I'll be honest with you. I can care less than someone having a beer in their hand than someone who is homeless. I care about that so much more than someone walking around the city with a beer in their hand.
And I don't really connect the two. We have a lot of initiatives going on.
Well, we
They're
need to
not
have
all
like a
connected.
work session. If that's what we agreed to at the strategic, I know, but Sue, you didn't let me finish, and I'll let you finish. We need to have a work session. That's what we agreed to, but it's almost putting the cart before the horse on the homeless issue. I agree with you on basically having a downtown district, someone that's gonna run it. However, can we set this aside and basically come back to it, just like we're gonna do for the homeless issue? Yes. I do think that we could do both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Maybe we can basically try to handle that from the TIF district until we basically hear from the residents. You haven't heard from one, you're saying that you heard from the Chief Delaney. Did he tell you that he wanted, or were there any parameters that he wanted in place? Because he knows that there's gonna be issues with people walking around with public intoxication. I see that all the time. There could be issues with people getting in their car, basically driving while drunk. Those things are something that the city is gonna have to think about before we basically even pass something with an entertainment district. We don't even have what that position is gonna entail, but we're willing to pass it today. But we won't pass something that, for the homeless, someone that could deal with a homeless coordinator.
Again, Carlos, this is thank you, and I appreciate your perspective. This is not a unheard of position, it's a very common position. And it's well-documented position descriptions, and yes, the downtown merchants have been spoken to, because I personally have walked into their stores and spoke to them about this. And I now would welcome anybody to do that. And it's actually an application to the state ABC board to be able to even call something an entertainment district. We have to define it. There's a lot of work to do before this happens. I mean, we're not there, but I do think that it's extremely important that we get.
Answer?
I think there's some confusion on this city position. The entertainment district, if you will, we haven't even said for sure we're doing that. That's a piece, like a possibility down the road. That was my impression, that at our work session back in January, that we would like to look into it. This position is to be a central point for anyone to recruit businesses to the downtown. Any business downtown that had a question, they would know who to contact. Concerts in the park, if the farmer's market wanted to do something. If all of these people kept doing all these things on their own, it would be conflicts. So there would be one person that would know everything, and that's the contact. Entertainment district may be part of it, maybe, if we approve to do that. But this person's just to be a point of contact to make sure we have a good plan for downtown, for businesses, so people aren't putting up parking lots without everyone else knowing.
And respectfully, that's one of the reasons why the TIF district was created. It was created, we have a parking lot thanks to the TIF district.
Right.
So that's where it comes from. And honestly,
Incremental funding.
Yeah, I'm
and
on that
honestly,
board,
I know,
Carl.
but Sue, can I speak?
Sure.
But honestly, we have to have something, why are we putting like the cart before the horse? And it's uncommon to basically have someone that's gonna be dealing with the homeless issue, but it's not uncommon to have someone that's gonna be dealing with the district, the entertainment district.
Nobody said it was uncommon. I want to
You
know a lot
alluded to
more
it.
about it and be a little bit more deliberate and specific before we go off and do that. That's all I'm saying. I am on the TIF board. No, we do not create, it's a tax incremental finance district, so it doesn't, we don't,
Stops at 8th Street.
yeah, we don't do events and we don't, do those kinds of things. It's more of a financial board that makes sure that the taxes are counted and that the money is allocated, and Jeff serves on the same board, so we.
And I respectfully disagree, and then if we have to, I would move basically to take that off the agenda until we have like a work session due to the entertainment district that we talked about back when we talked about it earlier this year.
Certainly
Can I
make a-
clarify something real quick?
make a
So,
motion.
the reason why I feel like it's very important to set aside this money is because the conversation you're saying you want to have, instead of setting aside this money, is to have a work session and to hear from these people. That's exactly the conversation we had in January, and nothing happened for 6 months. And so part of what we're doing is we're saying, so I'm not asking you guys to commit to a position, okay? What I'm asking you to is to set aside the same amount of money that we're setting aside for a coordinator downtown, so that we then have this money set aside, and that helps us to prioritize getting these nonprofit leaders in here, hearing from them. Would this be helpful? It lets Brent know, okay, I need to see about, what would it look like to have this position, and, make a proposal about what this position would look like. And then that way we have something to have a conversation about with the nonprofits about if this would be helpful. And so I am asking, since we did not get to have a work session, I feel like if we had had a work session and you all could have heard from these nonprofits, you all would have seen the need for this, right? But we didn't. So what I'm asking is, can we set this aside? Go ahead and start working on this, but it's contingency, right? So if we're like, know what, we don't want to hire this position, we don't want it, we just keep it right in contingency for some other thing. So that's my proposal. I don't know how to make that in a succinct way, but
So if it's contingency, it's not amending the budget, because it's already set aside in contingency. We're not changing
Yes.
the numbers in the budget
Exactly.
at all. So it's really not
Exactly.
an amendment to this budget ordinance.
right, but I would like this proposal to be put in terms of how we're going to spend some of this contingent. I don't know if it can be put in contingency if we have an idea for it. Does that make sense? You'll have to tell me, can it stay contingency with a,
We would have a work session, and you all would say, let's do this, and let's put $100,000 in it, and we would come back with a budget amendment, and we would move it out of contingency into a line item for personnel or a salary for a position, and we go about it that way.
That's all we're asking.
So
That's it.
here's my concerns, my questions, and we're jumping all around here today, and I know that. I know we're getting kind of tied up, but first of all, I've never heard, and I'm not trying to be facetious, but I've never heard a definition for affordable. And number two is, if we're going to help people, I want us to help our own people that live here in Bowling Green. So how are we going to determine that we're not helping the whole southeast portion of the United States that are homeless, and we're just helping the Bowling Green and Warren County residents that have recently become homeless? How are we going to, if we're going to bite at the cookie, we need to make sure we know how big the cookie is before we take the first bite, because once we take the first bite, it could get away from us. So
well, I'm not proposing
I'm
a
not-
regional coordinator.
Well,
I'm
how do we
proposing,
determine that we're helping our own people in Bowling Green, Warren County? How do we know how many of them? That's why we need a work session. How do we know how many of them live here and are from here, and they're not coming up from Nashville or coming down from Louisville, and we're not spending taxpayer dollars for people that live outside of Bowling Green, Warren County? That's
And-
my concern.
yeah, and again, I apologize. I am not proposing that we become a homeless service provider. Okay, so this is someone who would work.
Once you start, though, you are.
So this is a position that cities all over the country have, and there are cities who are working with their nonprofits, and they are part of what is called a continuum of care. And part of what HUD has in place is, and you can research the continuum of care, is that as a community, HUD wants us to have goals and objectives and a strategic plan on how we're going to end homelessness. And the way we can be a good partner with these nonprofits who are providing, who have, you know, separate funds to provide these services, is that we help create that strategic plan. We help guide that conversation because, right, you might have a town hall, but whose job is it to take the ideas from that town hall and to flesh it out and figure out, okay, what actually works in Bowling Green? What is the research show? What can we show that is data informed, that we know that is actually a workable solution? So it's someone to take from conversations with the nonprofits, with the developers, connecting with our the Kentucky Housing Corporation, who has programs for cities like ours. So when Mr. Childers would write the job description, working with the nonprofits, it would clearly be it's essentially supporting the city of Bowling Green's strategic plan. This is about us. So this is like our city of Bowling Green. We're saying this is how the goals that we want to reach in terms of addressing homelessness. I'm not proposing, right, we have all this funds coming, that if we want to do some big things around homelessness, we have these funds coming. That's separate from someone who, instead of Brent trying to do all the things he's doing, plus bringing in this part, this is saying we're going to have a position that's going to be able to have these conversations to make a strategic plan, because as a city, you know, we're seeing that we have homelessness, and we want to make sure that if we're going to put taxpayer dollars to it, we want to make sure that there's a plan to do it that we know is evidence-based and is going to help move us towards ending homelessness. So it's about the horse before the cart here is that this position helps make sure that whatever money's coming, that we use it within a plan that we know is going to make a positive impact. So that's the point of it.
I'll just make one more comment about the difference in the downtown development coordinator job. We're looking at a 12-block area with distinct boundaries of a 12-block area. We're wanting to recruit businesses in and develop and make fun and better and a destination for people to come downtown of Bowling Green. We're the third largest city in Kentucky, and our downtown, to be honest with you, is not what it should be for a third largest city of the state. That's all we were trying to do. It's a defined boundary. It's not in the TIF. The TIF stops at 8th Street. The TIF is a nonprofit board with no full-time staff. Sue and I, we don't have time to do stuff with the TIF. Doug Gorman is the chairman. He doesn't have time to do legwork for the TIF. We're working with the retail strategies firm. We have been for the last year or so, trying to get more stuff downtown, restaurants, boutiques, retail, and it's been tough with COVID. And all this position would be a go-to person for that firm to call and say, hey, I got a client that's looking for a 2-story downtown. Hey, you got anything, and that kind of thing. We'd also use them for planning events, and it's a pretty defined position, and we kind of knew what it all entailed. But when you look at this flip side, I'm not against the position, but before we bite off, like I said, take that first bite, I think this is a a lot bigger deal than a 12-block downtown coordinator position. So we got to look at what we're wanting to do and accomplish and look at what the parameters are, because affordable, I've been told, is $650 a month for some people. And it all depends on market rate. And I keep hearing this word affordable, but yet I don't hear a solution to get to the problem. I mean, I don't hear path to get to the solution for that problem. If we keep saying it's not affordable, it's not affordable. Well, define affordable. And I don't think we've ever gotten to that point. So I feel like we got to get to that point so we can solve the problem.
So part of what this position can do is write these deep questions that you have about what does affordable mean? What does it mean to end homelessness? What does it mean to make progress? How do we know it's not going to be this huge bite of this cookie that's bigger than we can handle? That this person's role would be able to facilitate that so that we can make exactly the right plan that's perfect for Bowling Green to make progress in ways that is good for our community. So that's part of what this position can do, is answer those questions, because this is what they do. They know exactly about housing policy and creating strategic plans, because like I said, HUD has every community, they want communities to do this that receive HUD dollars. So I guess my question is, how can we move forward in terms of setting some aside, having the conversation, making sure that we don't come back and say, well, this wasn't in the budget you all approved, so maybe FY 2023. That's what I want to avoid, is someone telling me that.
Let me make a suggestion then. If we're using contingency, we're not changing the bottom line budget, there's no amendment to the budget ordinance. However, in the next item on the agenda, the classification pay schedule, which establishes all of our positions, you could make an amendment to create the position at that point. Otherwise, just setting money aside isn't going to change anything. We need that position to be created, because we don't have an existing position. So it would not be an amendment to the budget. It would be an amendment to the classification pay schedule to establish that position at the same level, if that's what you want, at the downtown development director or development coordinator position. So that's an amendment to the next item on the agenda. And I guess Aaron had to leave early, but that would be my suggestion, since it's not changing the bottom line budget.
I'm okay with that, as long as also, my second question is, what needs to happen tonight so that I don't get told, well, we don't have that in the FY22 budget, we'll have to wait till FY23. What needs to happen tonight so that doesn't happen?
Again, the creation of that position on the classification pay schedule gives the direction to staff that this is a priority, that it needs to be funded. And therefore, we could then use the contingency for that purpose.
Okay, so then what's the language? Do I just say so moved, or?
So you would,
Anything yet?
Right,
Let's
right.
wait till the next item.
Is that
In
something that
this
has to?
particular one, you would need to withdraw your motion to amend.
Yes.
This
Mhm.
one,
But
you
do
all
we-
would,
Do we need a withdrawal if there isn't when she was taking out a contingency fund, she said that
No,
wasn't?
no, there is no change to the $75.6 million
Yeah, so that-
budget.
there was
for
a
general fund.
motion.
But-
Commissioner
Second.
Beasley
So
Brown
it
made a
needs to be-
motion, Mr. Bailey seconded. So
Yes.
that motion would need to be withdrawn. You all would vote on the budget. We would then move to the classification schedule, at which point Commissioner Beasley Brown would make a motion to add a position as a homeless coordinator or
yeah, whatever you want that to be
the
titled.
term. Right. But in this particular case, there is a motion to amend on the floor that would need to be withdrawn.
Is there does this is this something that could be done at any time? Well, I say, my opinion would be I'd wait, because this may be a bigger position than what we classify it. Who knows? Until we know the scope of what we're going to be doing, how do you know where this person's going to fall? How do you know they're going to be a coordinator? How do you know they're not going to be a director? How do you know they're not going to need a staff? I mean, you don't know.
So how do we make sure that we come back next meeting? How are we moving forward on this if we're not making any moving forward tonight?
I think we need to commit to a work session tonight.
Yeah, I'd say
And I'll
July.
make a motion to have a work session and to have, I don't have to make a motion to do that?
Well, we already have one motion to amend on the floor, so first we would need to address that one, and then I think you all can just come to a consensus as far as scheduling a work session.
And then who would then staff pulling together a work session for this?
Tell us what you want.
I've already stated that I'm calling a town hall meeting, so that's the work session that I am putting forth in the effort, and it will be announced within the next 2 weeks, Dana.
Identify these entities you all listed in the retreat, Homeless Coalition Room at the Inn, Hotel Inc., Brass, Life Skills, just to name a few. Send them letters or whatever,
So Todd, you're
notifying them.
handling that.
I will have that out within 2 weeks.
Can you explain to me what you're going to have
I
out?
already have. I've already explained it. I'm having a town hall meeting. I'm having the
But
coalition
yeah,
partners.
but that's different than a work session on us trying to figure out if we're going to hire a budget. Does that make sense? Like, this is specific.
I understand, but I want to have the town hall first, and if you want to have the working session, then you go ahead and continue that.
Have all of you all at the town hall meeting, so to be a quorum, and it'd be a public meeting. We advertise it.
And so are you saying you want to have this conversation, both conversations at the town hall, or are you wanting?
You can bring up your ideas of a coordinator at this. You're welcome to do that, and it has merit.
Because the
But the
topic
town
is
hall meeting-
homelessness?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the topic of the town hall, just so I?
I've stated the three things. It is housing assistance, it is homelessness, and panhandling.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So,
Withdrawal?
well, I need to clarification, right? Because again, we mentioned that we wanted to have this work session in January, and we didn't make progress. So what is the firm commitment that we're going to have staff help in creating this, or making a proposal about creating a staff position, if that's what comes out of that?
There isn't at this point.
Okay, how can we create a position, I guess, in the next one?
Carlos, your mic, please. Here.
Apologize. Is there a way that we can create a possible position, I guess, not in this, what we're voting on right now, but with the, I guess when we're basically, with the pay scale, is there a way that we can amend that to possibly create a contingent position after the work session?
I would say that's not an amendment then tonight. You would want to wait until after the work session to clarify what that position would actually be, to amend the classification pay schedule. However, you could amend it tonight and add a position. But again, that's up to the majority of you on how you want to handle that. Honestly, I don't even know where to begin in terms of budgeting accurately for a position like that, since I don't have any information. I haven't researched it. Staff has not had any opportunity to really dive into what that type position, what the recruitment level would need to be in order to get a good person in that position. I have no idea.
Well, I guess that's my question. So
Yeah.
what does it take to start staff being able to start asking these questions and looking into it? What needs to happen for you all to be free to start doing some research?
I think you just need to provide your consensus to that direction tonight.
So
for
would
the
you all
city
be willing
manager.
for the staff to at least research the potential of what this would look like for us?
Research the potential, sure. Yes.
So go ahead, Jeff.
Mayor, I would recommend that we call this just a special work session to
Not a town
clarify.
hall.
Yeah, just to clarify that it is an official work session with a quorum.
And that way you all have the opportunity to also participate in the discussion.
Right.
If it's just a town hall, then really you're just listening. You're not participating in that discussion.
And you can interact, ask
Yeah.
questions to the audience, and go back and forth.
All right, we'll have a special work session, I'll restate, within the next 2 weeks announced for our community.
There has been a consensus that Katie can do some research into this potential position. Is that right, Mayor? Yes. Okay.
So then I will withdraw my motion.
Motion withdrawn. There's an ordinance still on the floor. Further discussion from the commission. This is our first reading, non-binding. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2021-25, first reading, non-binding.
Ordinance relating to classification pay schedules. Ordinance amending the classification pay schedules. G for general classified, F for fire, P for police, D for department head management, and U for unclassified part-time employees, and authorizing pay increases for fiscal year 2022.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Mizel.
Mayor, this ordinance basically affirms everything that we just talked about that's in the budget relating to personnel. Your memo from Aaron to me in your packets is a good summary of the changes that we made. Talks about the changes we made to get everyone to the $15 per hour, various grades. We eliminated a couple of grades to do that. Talks about the new positions and so forth. The COLA is in here, the 1.4%, along with the merit raises that are being proposed. And this pretty much nails down the classification pay schedule that's in here that looks like the small print here with all the job positions and what grades they're in, and gives you the different pay schedules for the different schedules: police, fire, general, department heads, that sort of thing. Aaron had to leave, but I'll try to answer any questions, and Katie can too, if you have any.
All right. Any
This is all in your budget.
I told Katie earlier, and I think most of us have, fantastic. You and your team did a fantastic job in that budget, and it's really impressive. I'm sure you're winning another award this year.
All right. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Hill.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes.
And,
Next is open for.
If I may, just for a second, I'm going to get with our HR director, Erin Halsey, and she and I will work together on following up with some research on the position you've requested.
Thank you very much, Katie. All right, our next is open for public comments. I ask that the member approach has signed up in the back that would have their name and address. I will no longer ask you to state your address publicly if you do approach the podium, but please do state your name, whether you live in the city or whether you live somewhere else. And you have 3 to 5 minutes. I'll notify you at 3, but we do cut off at 5, and it's open. Did anyone? You may. We still have the agenda items. Which agenda item are you wanting to make comments on? It's still an open item. It's not bounded. So we do have a sign up, and I did ask everyone to do the sign in. You're fine. Just go ahead and state your name, whether you live in the city or where you live.
My name is Megan Bailey. I do live in Bowling Green.
Thank you.
So, simply put, this is about people versus an unnecessary whim. And yes, I understand as a city we desire to retain those who graduate from Western Kentucky University and bring opportunity to this area, but I argue that opportunity does not beat out the morality of caring for our own. Just think about that for a moment. We desire to bring bodies into a place where we can't bear to muster up the human decency to care for each other. Housing is a basic need. A secure, safe, and affordable place to lay your head is a basic, it's a basic need. And this is not an either-or situation as it's being posed. No, when the basic needs of people are met, the entire community thrives. Basic needs such as housing, they equal economic growth. Individuals that are secure contribute, therefore pouring into the city that houses them. Now, I come to you as an artist, and I would probably benefit off of building up the downtown area, but my moral compass overrides my art. People are the priority. This budget leans towards the desire to act somewhat like a Nashville or a Louisville, and both of those places are great, but that's not what Bowling Green is. We already have something special. We have something special here and hold our very own hometown identity. We tarnish that identity when we fail to care about each other and throw away precious members of this community. I stand today as a voice for those people who may not feel strong enough to speak up. I stand in the gap for the 100+ members of this community who signed their names to a petition because they care about Bowling Green the way that I do. They care about their neighbors and friends the way that I do. For those who wake up every day and try their best, give their best effort to make ends meet. Basic needs, especially off the tail end of a pandemic, that's the priority. And it's a top priority. Other things can come. The city will gain other opportunities. But we've got to take care of each other first. And then that will pour into the community to build anything and everything that this city desires. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. All right, next we have Mrs. Carter. You're welcome.
Yeah, I didn't have any kind of like cute little speech or anything like that, but like I just, I don't know if you want to pass it around. I made this in February, and it's based off the same research study that y'all probably went to. Little Dana there and Mr. Carlos there, we've talked to them about these housing issues before, and I just want to make it known that, like, I'm homeless right now. Like, dead up. Like, it's not because, like, I can't afford rent. It's not because, like, I mean, like, I got, like, some loose screws up in the head and stuff like that. But, like, literally, because I'm a black activist and because, like, I'm out here trying to, like, do my thing for everybody else, like, my rental application got denied because I wasn't trusted on this woman's property. To this day, I'm living illegally at my friend's house until July that I can get my own place. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm not gonna be talking, like, I hope I'm coming off respectfully, but I'm not gonna talk to you guys, like, I just want y'all to know that this whole thing, like, this whole setup, this whole microphone, like, writing your name on a sheet or else you can't, like, it's intimidating. These seats are supposed to be filled with people that are in the community right now. If y'all want something done about the homeless community, instead of even going to Hotel Inc. and, like, trying to talk to all those people, why don't you go talk to some homeless people? And nothing against you, but, like, the whole thing you were talking about saying that, like, we want to make sure it's just for Bowling Green. What if I wanted to live in Bowling Green and I applied for that rental application and I couldn't live here? Am I still not deserving of a home? You know, like, really, I really want y'all to look, like, and also the fact that there is, I don't care if it has, like a distinct, like, plan or not. You considered having an arts and entertainment center here in Bowling Green, downtown Bowling Green, before you guys considered taking care of the homeless community. I don't even see anything about the international community in this. We have a whole refugee center for international people here in Bowling Green. The biggest one in Kentucky, the only one in Kentucky, probably. And I don't see anything catered to them. I wouldn't have even known about this meeting if someone didn't tell me about it the other day. You guys advertise, but I don't see the community here. It's kind of just like the people that, like, it really is insulting. Like, I want you guys to know from the community, you guys seem really insulting. This is insulting. I'm a member of your community, and I'm here to tell you that, like, it's not right. Like, you want to have an arts and entertainment center, but, like, what about the art and entertainment from the international community? Like, what about them? They don't even have a stop sign by the train tracks in Little Mexico. They don't. Like, we're not even, like, when's the last time y'all even walked down the street to, like, a part of the neighborhood y'all didn't want to go? And hearing that thing about, you know, like, we want to make sure everything is, like, for Bowling Green and stuff, like, we're under the impression that it's just, like, it's just for profit. You guys want to make things look really nice to bring people in here, which is, yeah, but, like, that's not Bowling Green. That's not Bowling Green. And I'm very disappointed, actually. I'm actually really disappointed. This is my first time coming to a city commissioner meeting, and this is how we're getting money into the city. And I looked at the fiscal year budget last year, which made me make that thing. And on there also, there's a bunch of asks from the community. Stop talking to like these people from like nonprofit organizations that would like, it sounds like you want to gatekeep to talk to people through different mediums, and you're not talking to the people you need to. I'm homeless. And you know what I have to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, like literally. Living in, like my sister tomorrow, I have to go get her in Louisville and bring her with me because she can't live with my mom, because I can't live with my mom. And I have to bring her to a household that I can't even live in, that I don't even feel safe in. Go walk down the street and go talk to your people. Ask them what they need. You're not. You're really not. And like the nonprofits are doing their job, but we're busting our butts out here trying to save people. And yeah, they've already been in place. You can do better. We talk about affordability, we talk about money. I can hug y'all one by one. Doesn't cost me a damn cent. You don't need money to get stuff done. I've gotten a lot of stuff done in this city without any kind of money. We don't need more money. We need to change the way that we are approaching these situations. We need to find different alternatives, find other alternatives. Literally, like, if I try getting on Section 8, like, do y'all know really how much that time takes? Like, people are on HUD, people are on these things. Yeah, they're there, but they can't even get housed till like 8 months. Like, this is the reality of what the programs that we have already. And they're not working. You can make alternatives. And I think as a city, you have that power to do so. It's about the will.
Carter.
Hi. Thanks again, Daenerys and Megan, for sharing your stories and really setting the stage here. Oh, I meant to give this to you all. So this is in the, it's in the summary of the budget. There's a copy of an organizational chart for the city, and I want to point to the fact that the very top of that organizational chart is the residents. It's not the Salvation Army. It's not Hotel Inc. You don't need to go through these other systems in order to hear from and speak to the people in our community. And I'm really here to say that a budget is a moral document. The budget is a moral document. It's an expression of what we value most as a community. And as a resident of Bowling Green, what I value the most is making sure that everyone's basic needs are met, starting with housing first. And I know that some of you all share this value. Thank you again, Mayor Alcott, for affirming that you share this value with us tonight, and thank you to the commission for adding it to your priorities. We are in alignment here. We agree about this. And there's 120 Bowling Green residents, as represented by our beautiful paper chain here. I know and y'all are working with some big numbers, so I wanted to give you a visual, just in case you forgot how many 120 people is. Names and addresses are in the petition form that I just handed Mr. Meisel. 120 fellow Bowling Green residents share that value, and they support you. They support you in building long-term housing solutions into our budget now, right now. They have said so already. And they matter, okay? They're asking you to listen. The general fund is $75.6 million of our money. That is our money, and it is to be used to take care of each other in this city. And we are telling you we want to see it spent on addressing the homelessness and housing crisis that we are facing together. And I don't mean just by, like direct service work like we already have wonderful nonprofits to do. I mean long-term solutions. The best you could do so far is to execute a capital improvements plan from 7 years ago to use mostly federal money to add 10 affordable housing units, some of which are transitional. That's the best you could do, and then make it pretty. That's the best that you can do for our houseless neighbors. That's the best that you've got for the people of Bowling Green. I can't believe it. I mean, you could have started an affordable housing trust fund. You could have subsidized the development of more affordable housing in our city. You could have started a program to offer right to counsel for people facing eviction to help keep them off of the streets in the first place. You could have implemented any of the solutions from the Bowen Research Study in recent years. You didn't even choose to schedule a meeting with the people to hear what kinds of solutions they wanted to see us work on this year before you made your budget. So now we're asking you to choose differently. We're asking you to express our shared value, our shared community values, through a commitment to using our tax money to fund long-term housing solutions like the ones I just named, and like I'm sure a housing coordinator role would uncover are commonly used solutions that the city could take. Now, I'm really upset. As you can see, I'm pretty upset right now, but I am open to discussion if you would like to respond.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. Actually, this is for public comments. We hear your comments. We appreciate everyone's comments. As you see, this body is working to make an effort, and there is going to be a working session, and so we're taking that to heart. So we understand, we appreciate your comments.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for scheduling that working session. You remember a couple of weeks ago when I came here, pointing to the 65 residents that emailed you asking for that to be scheduled. I'm glad it's finally happening. It's good to see.
Yes, ma'am. Right. I don't have any other comments, actually, for the agenda tonight. We appreciate everyone that has come tonight. Our next scheduled meeting is June 15th, 2021, and we will also be announcing when that working session will be happening within the next 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.